Isn't it true? Like, could the keyboard player please come forward? We do this all the time. We're so concerned about smooth transitions and how one thing flows into the next. I don't know why. But I came in this morning and got to say goodbye to Daniel Lim right before he left to go to the airport with Tenny. And he said, what did he said? He said, don't worry about clean endings. Leave everything messy. So I'm going to do my best. These are my marching orders. Leave everything messy. Hey, how about I start off with saying something really offensive? This is hard. We could do like double layers. I feel like I'm on the bridge of the Enterprise here. That was just a little nerdy statement that not many of you caught. So I was with the Call of Viva 4 weeks ago today. And we were out in Pasadena, California. And I've spent the last year, a little more than a year and a half, making multiple trips out to California, mostly Southern California, primarily focused on ministry with the Hispanic church. In 2011, I did not speak in an Anglo church and didn't do that intentionally. It's just that, Paul talks about how unexpectedly, like, hey, I wanted to do this, but a great door of, how did he say it? Is it a great door for effectual work has opened to me, and so I stayed. And that's kind of how it was. In 2011, I only spoke in Hispanic churches the entire year, and I didn't try to do that deliberately. It's pretty amazing. And so it all kind of culminated in the Call of Viva 4 weeks ago today, and we had a gathering of maybe about 4,000 Hispanics from all over mostly Southern California and Mexico. Really, I think there was representation throughout Latin America, but mostly Mexico. And God just did some amazing things. And the prayer movement here's what I see happening. The Hispanic church is laying hold of the prayer movement more quickly than I would say the Anglo church, the evangelical church has laid hold of it. And rather than making that sound like an accusation, I would just say that it's just the effect of accumulated prayer. And so what we can do is we can actually learn from that, and what we ought to expect as a result of year after year after year of giving ourselves to the place of prayer is that there will be a natural acceleration of things like this. And so I just am really excited. And Cindy Jacobs was there with us, and she prophesied at that gathering. She said, God is going to re-evangelize the United States through the Hispanics. I don't know how you feel about that. No, really, I don't know how you feel about that. That might sting a little bit. It doesn't sting me at all. I've spent enough time with my Hispanic brothers and sisters to know that I know who my real familia is. I'm delighted because I went to Southern California and I felt like a fish out of water, preaching in churches where I don't understand what anybody's saying, and having to speak through translators. And God introduced me to a part of my tribe that was exactly like me, but just a little bit different color of skin. And it's just been amazing. But she prophesied that God was going to re-evangelize the United States through the Hispanics. And she has been saying to the Hispanic churches, and this I'll just make another offensive statement maybe. Isn't that fun? The message to the Hispanic church is that until you get the issue of the shedding of innocent blood right, you will not get the immigration reform that you seek. Until you get the abortion issue right, God's not going to release to you immigration reform, which is so desperately needed. I am not taking anything away. If I've learned anything in the last year and a half, it's that the pain of the immigration issue is like a current that constantly flows under the lives of the entire Hispanic community, and it touches every aspect of their lives. If not directly, it's right next to them, or it's family members. You understand what I'm saying? But God is the great promise in that is that God is actually going to use the Hispanic community to raise. He's bringing forth deliverers. And I believe that God's going to actually use the Hispanic church and the African American church to end abortion in this nation. Yeah. It'll be all of us, but I believe that it's been God ordained that they will take point, that they will actually bring leadership to the thing that ends it. So that's exciting. So I've been thinking about immigration reform. This isn't what I'm preaching about today. But this was a thought I had in that meeting 4 weeks ago. It's because there's so much talk, Listen, it's difficult to walk into a setting like that and try to get everybody to flow in agreement for the ending of abortion, and knowing that. Maybe I don't need to spell this out. I'm just going to trust that everybody here understands that in this kind of weird two-party system that we are currently wrestling with in this nation, those two things don't really intersect in terms of where you find mercy on the immigration issue and mercy on the abortion issue. And so it's really difficult to address these two issues. But I was sitting there and I was praying, and I just had this thought, and I'm still testing it. But it sounds right, is that we ought to be really careful in this nation about how loudly we cry out for a bigger fence on our border. I will say this, and I can say this with certainty, that if this nation is going to continue to move in rebellion against God, it does not matter how big a wall we build around our borders. It didn't work in Jerusalem, and it's not going to work here. You hear what I'm saying? But we ought to be careful how strongly we call out. Now, this is a controversial word to talk about in Florida. Maybe I'll just go to Texas and Arizona and New Mexico next. We'll just hit all these southern states. Yeah. Then I'll go back to New York. We ought to be very careful how loudly we cry out for a bigger fence, because I believe that fulfilling the Great Commission is going to depend on illegal immigration. Think about this. Oh, I see all your gears are starting to creak and turn now. Don't you think that in order to penetrate into some of these unreached people groups that we're going to have to sneak in? And don't you think we're going to have to smuggle Bibles in as contraband? That's a weird thought, isn't it? That the completion of the Great Commission is actually going to have an element of illegal immigration integral in it. Yeah, that's not going to really go over too well in too many circles. Hey, I said I was going to start off. See, I got everybody's attention now. What's he going to say next that's really going to offend me? I love gatherings like this. I've actually I have no great love for conferences. I've been to too many of them, and I don't like to attend them, and I don't like to put them on. And it's a difficult task, and I think all of us gave up long ago. If you've ever done a conference, we gave up long ago of actually doing this as a profitable venture. Is that right, Tenny? Yes. It's make no mistake that the IHOP Tallahassee did not put this event on this weekend so that they can all get rich quick. Trust me on that. It's sort of a sacrifice of love to for the staff to get very little sleep and come on, you just heard about all the prayer and the fasting and the dreaming and the prayer and the fasting and the fasting and the fasting that went into preparing these 3 days so that y'all can just come in here and sit down and hear something, right? It's a great sacrifice, and so I'm actually really glad to be here. I liked what Randy was talking about this morning. If you weren't here, he's kind of talking about sort of like the short-circuiting, that kind of takes place. You hear some of this stuff, man, and like things. You just hear something really profound, and it was funny this morning because Randy went over some really profound material. And then he ended his talk with saying, I don't really have anything profound to say. I looked at Jared and I'm like, but a lot of times we come into these kinds of settings and these gatherings and maybe you heard about this thing and maybe you only took you could only fit in your schedule to come to one session and hopefully that was somebody else's and not this one. And you come or maybe you come to these kind of conferences and you hear all of this stuff that sounds so, come on, a lot of these messages, you ever sit here and it's just like, this thing, I can't, my brain blown, everything just short-circuited. Daniel Lim opens his word, says three words, and I just don't even know if I understand what he just said. And, it's can't you just give me something practical? It's like, come on, man, I got to go to work on Monday, and you're talking about uncreated light that doesn't come from anywhere else but inside, and I got my eyeballs, but I got my internal eyeballs, and I'm gonna see something that, come on, man, Jesus is coming back, and God's gonna turn off the lights, and uncreated light's gonna fly around on a cloud, and everybody's gonna see it, but they're not gonna see it with these eyeballs, they're gonna see it with those other eyeballs, and I just gotta go to work on Monday, man. Can't you just give me something practical? And Tenny's like, 20 minutes. Just give me 20 minutes in tongues, I'll tell you a funny story. Because that wasn't. When we first started J-Hop 8 years ago, which, by the way, Monday, day after tomorrow, is our 8-year anniversary of being on Capitol Hill. Monday is the opening day of Supreme Court. Yes, this session, we will cross the 40-year mark of Roe v. Wade. And about a little over a month ago, they filed California's Prop 8 at the court. I'm guessing they're probably going to hear that one. And so we crossed 40 years on Roe v. Wade, and they're also possibly going to say that it's unconstitutional to ban homosexual marriage. So it's interesting times. But when J-Hop first got started, we had, it wasn't even, I don't know if we called it an internship. It was more like a flop house. You want to pray? Here, come pray with us. We just need some warm bodies. And so this young man named Craig, he comes and right out of high school, man, and he was raised a Baptist, thank God. And he comes and he came with his friend, and really it was because he came with his friend. I don't know how he could have landed in our place any other way. And he plays bass. And so pretty short order, he ends up as one of our musicians, and he's playing bass in the prayer room. And we were going 24/6 in those early days. And so we had a community of about 100 people that were divided up into 4 6-hour segments. And so we would, each team would go in these 6-hour cycles, and you'd do 2 hours of devotional prayer, and you do 2 hours in front of the Supreme Court, and then 2 hours of intercession in the prayer room. It's a pretty cool rhythm that everybody got in. But Craig, this nice little Baptist boy, ends up in the prayer room playing his bass, and he's a really shy guy, still is. By the way, he's still with me. He's still on my staff. Awesome. And he ends up in a section with his section leader is this firebrand of a young intercessor, this young gal, and she is all about praying in tongues. And Craig wasn't. And so, the shy guy, come on, what is it with the bass players? They always just kind of hide out, man. They camp out back there, and they just kind of do their thing. And so Craig's hiding behind his bass, and this young lady that's leading the section, her thing was they would come back into the prayer room for that 2-hour segment of intercession, and her thing was, we're going to pray in tongues for 1 solid hour. We're not just going to pray in tongues. We are going to yell in tongues. And so for an hour,